Joining me is one of the premier voices in the sports world. And if you don't know this guy, let me tell you what he does. The, the NFL on CBS, the NFL on Westwood One, NCAA basketball on CBS, French Open on the Tennis Channel, the NBA on TNT, and there's one other. Uh, he is the voice of the Brooklyn Nets on the Yes Network, Mr. Iron Eagle. Did I leave anything out?
No, you got it covered, Chris. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. So, what have you been doing during this pandemic? I mean, you're a guy who's used to just being all over the place.
Yep.
And you must have just been turned inside out being home like this.
Yes and no. I mean, obviously, just by the sheer numbers, I have not been home this many consecutive days, sleeping in my own bed since 1993. So,
Wow.
of course, there's been a very different day-to-day existence. But I must say, the last 5 years or so, I've really made a concerted effort to turn off the battery during summer months. I've actually turned down some work, which was not the case in the first 20 plus years of my career. And I just recognized that I needed some balance and I was getting older. That's just the sheer reality of the situation. So I've taken that approach and that mindset, and I've just shifted the calendar a bit. So my feelings of just shutting it down, I've been there before. I've experienced that for the last few years. I'm just doing it at a time of the year that I'm not accustomed to.
But it's nice being able to do that. If you're a younger broadcaster, turning down work is probably a hard thing to do.
Oh yeah.
And now I think you're established. I'm not sure. I mean, you have a couple of things that are kind of working out for you. So, turning down a job or two is probably not so hard now.
Yeah, it's still hard. Instinctively, you want to say yes. I'm the kind of guy that says yes to everything. And I've just had to make some choices, which, trust me, I get it. In the big picture, that means an opportunity for somebody else. And I see that as a positive. But really, it was my wife. We've been married since 1993. So it's going to be 27 years in just about a week or so.
Oh,
And she,
congratulations.
thank you. She mentioned to me, my wife Elisa, about 5, 6 years ago, hey, you may want to just find a
Dial
little
it
more
back.
balance. And she was correct.
You've pretty much picked up the golden rule: happy wife, happy life. Am I
Yeah,
right
it
about that?
rhymes and it actually makes a lot of sense.
Barclays Center in Brooklyn has been the backdrop for some of the protests after the murder of George Floyd. As you know, there's been a lot of unrest here in New York and around the country. Athletes, especially in the NBA, have been very vocal about speaking up against racism. LeBron James is always vocal. The Pacers' Malcolm Brogdon organized a protest in Atlanta. Jaylen Brown drove 15 hours to take part in that protest. Thabo Sefolosha, he had a run-in a few years ago with the NYPD. He said that George Floyd could have been him. Even Michael Jordan spoke out. How important do you think is it for these athletes, these NBA players, to make their voices heard?
I think it's incredibly important because of the weight that their words carry. And in times like this, we look towards leaders in the community, in the sports world, in politics, in everyday society to step forward and set the tone for the rest of our country. These are uncomfortable topics,
Very much so.
but they need to be dealt with. They need to be covered. and they need to be discussed. And the only way to create that dialogue is to fully understand where everybody is coming from. And that includes athletes who have large followings and who certainly have an impact.
That meant a lot. Can I hit the NBA?
Yep.
There's a meeting with the Board of Governors come Thursday, and they're going to try and talk about starting the season back up. I mean, there are a bunch of different scenarios that can happen. 22 teams being invited to play, or all 30. We don't know what's going to happen. What are you hearing?
Yeah, I'm hearing the 22 teams is probably the format they're going to go with. They recognize that they can't include everybody, but they do want to give teams that were at least within striking distance of the playoffs
6 games, I think, right?
A chance to get in. Mm-hmm. 6, and then the 2 8 seeds would be included in this round robin format for 2 spots. And look, this is not going to be perfect. Not everybody is going to be happy. The NBA has been very cautious. They have been transparent, but not completely transparent, because they don't need a cacophony of different opinions at this stage. They have to come up with a plan and try to put that plan into action. Right now, we're just talking about the format. We haven't even gotten into the health aspect of it and how they're going to protect their players and their staff members and their coaches and the officials.
And the announcers.
Possibly. We don't know what the announcer's role is going to be in all this. There's a very good chance that announcers will be calling it from remote locations in their respective cities, in a studio format, calling it off a large monitor.
Like they do in soccer.
Yeah, maybe they allow some of the national announcers into the bubble. That remains to be seen, but I have heard that being rumored as a possibility. I've done it. I've worked off a monitor in a studio. I did it for the NBA Finals in 2013. I've done it for World Basketball Championships. I've done it for tennis. I've done it for golf. It's all very feasible. Is it the same? No, it's not. No. It's never going to be the same. When you're sitting courtside or when you're sitting at the 50-yard line at a football game, there's still something about the ambiance that helps guide you as a broadcaster. But if there are not going to be fans involved, a lot of that is already going to be taken out of the equation. Right. And announcers are going to have to generate their own energy and gauge how their voice is matching the action on the court.
Can I play a little something for you?
Sure.
I prepared this. It's basically, I like to call it Ian's greatest hits.
Yeah, I'm not going to stop you.
LeVert turns the corner on Jones. Oh! Love vertical! Spencer Dinwiddie in backdoor. LeVert! Love jam! And a foul! Because of the injuries that we brought up. Oh! Jared Allen! Do not go in there! Blake Griffin gets gummed hard. James. Hard drive. Oh! Rejected! The Fro just got the king! Allen sets up against the shorter Smith. Pumps. Oh! Big time throwdown. Leonard makes his move. Oh! That's a man's jam! Kawhi Leonard! They outscore the 76ers 37-17, and another Kawhi light.
Another Kawhi light. That I ended with that one because I enjoyed that one. Where do these come from? Are these on the fly ad libs, or do you sit back and like, I think I'll bring this one out at a certain time?
No. It's all in the flow of the action, and in order to be authentic in this job, you've got to open up your mind and be ready for anything. I think it's been years and years of experience and certainly anticipating things at times, having a Rolodex in your brain where you can call upon something when you need it, but you've got to be comfortable letting it rip.
And I can't talk to you without talking about the Nets. I mean, you knew that, right?
I knew that was coming, yeah.
Yes. So right now they're the 7th seed in the East. Long layoff. There's a guy, I think he's going to wear number 7. Possibly might be able to play. It's been a year since he's played. You know, Kyrie was hurt, and now he might be healed up. I'm not sure. Talk about what the Nets can do if the playoffs, come off, like we think they will.
Well, I think there are obvious questions that are being asked. If the NBA season resumes, then would the Nets have the full complement of their roster to use for this new look playoffs? And we recognize why those questions are being asked, because this is no longer the calendar that we once followed in the NBA.
No.
All of the information that we had in regards to Kevin Durant was based on the normal setup. This is no longer normal. So anyone that is dismissing the notion just based on previous answers is not looking at the full picture.
They're not paying attention.
Kevin Durant may not play, and that might be Kevin's decision along with the Nets medical staff and Nets management and ownership. They may decide that, hey, this does not make sense. But there will be a discussion.
Sunday nights for Appointment TV on ESPN with The Last Dance, 10 episodes where they followed Michael Jordan around during that 1998 season and actually covered a lot of his career as well. What were some of your takeaways after you watched the series?
It was a fantastic walk down memory lane. I was really fortunate that I started with the Nets in 1994. So when Jordan came back from the baseball interlude and returned to the Bulls, I had a front row seat, and I got to see so many of those moments firsthand. And I ended up calling 2 of the finals that he was in with the Bulls, the Seattle series and the Utah series that you saw, the actual Last Dance,
Right.
that ended his Bulls career, on the world feed. So I was in the house that night in Salt Lake City when he hit the shot over Brian Russell.
Was it a push?
Yeah, there was a push there. Was it a foul?
No. I think it was incidental, but go ahead. I'm sorry. I didn't want to
So,
break your train of thought.
For me, it was just a fun ride back. And yeah, to see a young Chris Jacobs and to see so many other media members that I've come to know and become friendly with pop up sitting front row at MSG or in the scrum of a Michael Jordan interview.
Do you know
I
how many
found all
people
of
asked
that.
me about that? Like, was that
sure.
you?
Yeah.
I had to look twice. I'm like, that was me.
Yeah, that was fun. That was a hot tub time machine moment.
Yeah.
But really what I took away from it was his ridiculous drive and will. And yes, there are other sides to the stories that he told.
But he's
We
human.
just heard his side. We get that.
He's
It
human.
wasn't a true documentary, but that's how he remembered it. And the one thing you can't take away is the greatness.
Ian, you are a prince. Thank you so much for your time.